Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Please, can you confirm you can hear me? So today we'll be using the chat bot a lot in the chat box. Please confirm you can hear me. Can you hear me now? Oh, you didn't hear the video. Who else heard the video? Our introductory video. Who heard it? Chukwebuka said he didn't hear anything. Oh, you heard the video. Yay, yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Oh, you heard the voice. Thank you, Favor. Thank you. Who else watched the video? Who else watched the video? Let me confirm how many people were able to listen to our introductory video. Let's use the chat box. I watched the video and you heard it right. Oh, I did watch it. Thank you. Thank you. So good evening, everybody. Today is a very interesting conversation. We are all gathered here for something very insightful, right? Very, 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 very insightful. Okay, if you didn't hear the video is live on our YouTube channel, so I can always share the link with you. My name is Praise Okezie. I am the Communications Associate right here at NG Youth SDGs. And we are super excited to have everybody gathered here for this interesting conversation. And the funny and not just funny, right, but the best part of this conversation that we are having today is that it's focused on a particular set of young people. We do have a lot of webinar, Zoom interactions where we have people from all over the country, in and out of Nigeria join the conversation. But this particular one that we have an expert right here to speak with us, not just on two, right, to speak with us, is specially put together for young people, youth leaders, civic young leaders, activists in Enugu State, especially Enugu East Senatorial District. So if you are just joining me, I want to welcome you. So just a brief check-in with you. Just use the chat box and tell me what your name is, where you're joining in from, what local governments are you even joining us from. So let us know and catch up, right? I said my name is Praise. I'm the Communications Associate at Nigeria Youth SDGs. I'm joining from Lagos, Nigeria. So let me just hear that from you too. You can use the chat box. If you want to unmute, you can just use the raise hand button and I'll unmute you and just give you a brief introduction. I would love to connect and meet everybody that joined us on the conversation. So Chidima Ruth says she's joining from Enugu State. Chidima Ruth Ulogware says she's joining from Enugu State. So Favor says she's joining from Enugu State. Interesting. So let me just quickly ask, how do you greet? Okay, let me say you want to say welcome in Enugu State. Is it Dalu? Or what exactly do we say? So, okay, can someone just drop that in the chat box? If you want to unmute, please just raise your hand and I will unmute you because I would love someone to just tell us how, okay, if you want to just exchange pleasantries in the East, what do you say? Especially for if you are in Enugu State, what do you say? Do you say Dalu? Do you say Mamano? What exactly do you say? What exactly do you say so that we'll know that okay, we are trying to localize the conversation right here. Chukwudubem said he's joining from Enugu South, Enugu State. Yes, you are welcome, Chukwudubem. We have Blessing. Bonaventure says he's joining from Enugu North. Finally, we have someone from Enugu North. Okay, is there Enugu West? Are we expecting people from Enugu West? Okay, someone raised her hand. Okay, let me unmute. I think you can unmute now. Think you can unmute now. Just tell us, how do you say okay? How do you say if you want to maybe exchange pleasantries, how do you say that? Onyebuchi, you can unmute. Chukwebuka, you can unmute. Just let us know if you're able to unmute. Okay. Okay. Chukwebuka.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, I'm Civic Bonaventure from Enugu North. And you said what was your question again?
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay, let me
my
say,
mind.
I'm new in Enugu State, and I want to maybe greet people in Enugu State. I just want to maybe exchange pleasantries, or I just want to how do I say, the way you say good morning or hello, how are you doing? How do you say that if you meet people in Enugu State?
Okay, for example, now let's say we are this is evening, right? Okay. We can just say Abanyoma, just kind of saying good evening. And then you can go further to ask the person, Kedu Kime, like how are you doing? And the person will now say Adamama. That's it.
Okay, like this. So like this that we have our speaker here. I can, when he comes on board, I can tell him Abanyoma Keduki Mere. Thank you so much, Ebuka. Thank you. Thank you. It's nice having you on the call. So who else? Okay, Charity says she's joining from Enugu North. Charity
Can
says,
you hear me?
okay, Onyebuchi, you want to say something too? Please go ahead.
Good evening to you from Enugu.
Good evening.
Well, if we are to greet good morning, how we say it, Ụtụtụ ọma.
Okay.
This is a central, but if you come to Enugu, Nsukka zone, Nsukka people will always have their own way, they're dialectly speaking. That is their own dialect. They can tell you, Unabochi,
Okay.
Unabodochi. But centrally, the whole of Igbo people will always say Ụtụtụ ọma.
Okay, thank you so much, Onyebuchi. I think we now have a lot of greetings right here. We have Otutoma, we have Abanoma. I've even forgotten the first one. But thank you so much. It's so great to have you two on the call. So if you're just joining and you know you have colleagues, friends who are supposed to be part of this conversation, please and please and please and please just reach out to them to join the call, because we are about to just move ahead to the major reason why we are here. You're also free to drop your name, where you're joining us from, so that we'll just get to meet you, get to connect with you on the call. We are super excited to have everybody here. I just want to confirm, can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see me and can you hear me? You can just use the chat box if you can see me, you can hear me. Just confirm if you can see me and you can hear me. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay, I think yes. Yes, yes. Okay. Onyebuchi, you may just want to lower your hand so that we would know if that's a fresh hand or you're trying to still say something. Okay, so once again, you're all welcome to this conversation. You're all welcome to this conversation. So today's conversation is quite an interesting one. Our focus topic is on use as catalyst for democratic change at the local level. And you may be wondering, oh, why are we all gathered here for such a conversation like this, right? So this one is very, very sensitive and is very, very important to us, even as an organization. The Network of Youth for Sustainable Initiative, NG Youth SDGs, which is a youth-led civil society organization that is advocating for the meaningful engagement of young people through programs and policies that will enable them to lead and thrive. And we've been doing this over the years since 2017, even as a youth group, before we finally got registered. So we just keep on advocating for youth policies. So how can we bring young people to the table? How can we advocate for policies that will empower young people? How can we develop initiatives and programs that will help young people not just to lead and thrive alone, which is the major thing, but also to positively impact their communities, their states across Nigeria? And the Civic Leadership Programme, which most of you know about, is one of our initiatives supported by Nigeria Youth Future Funds and Leap Africa, which is all together towards equipping young people, bringing them together closer to their lawmakers to build trust and civic cohesion, even in the local government. And this conversation is one very, very interesting conversation. Now, I know that we all know that in Nigeria, 70% of the youth population is young people. Very, very interesting statistics. We have 70% of the entire population are young people. So how can we bring young people together to play a pivotal role when it comes to democratic change in the local level? How can they act as catalysts for innovation, participation, and also advocating for community building, advocating for positive change, making sure that the voices of young people are heard? How do we even know what to say when we get to the local level? Like, how do we negotiate, interact with young people? And that's one thing specifically for the people in the Elevating Youth Voices, Building Trust and Civic Creation Project, which is the Civic Leadership Programme. And we decided to extend this and also expand and ensure that not just the Civic Champions, the 5 Civic Champions are going to benefit or going to be part of the conversation. So we are expanding and making room for more young people like you to see, or should I say, to also have a taste of what it looks like being trained and being equipped with the skills to contribute to community development and ensure meaningful youth participation. And that is why you are here. Once again, I just want to say, if you're just joining the conversation, please just send a WhatsApp message to that your friend that you know that every time both of you are discussing politics, send a message to that particular friend that this one is a special conversation that you should be part of, because we have 2 interesting experts on the call. And this conversation is very, very important, even at this point in time. We also want to recognize one of the organizations that is supporting the conversation, that's supporting us around South Saharan Social Development Organization. If you're a representative of South Saharan Social Development Organization, please just drop a message in the chat box, and we'd love to just welcome your team and also you in the conversation. So South Saharan Social Development Organization is a duly registered non-profit organization in Nigeria, with the primary focus of equipping women, youth, and children with the skills needed to survive and compete favorably in sub-Saharan Africa. So they are also joining the conversation because they want to support the whole discussion around equipping young people to become catalysts for democratic change in the local level. So right now, we'll just dive into the entire conversation. We have our speakers right here. I am super excited because our speaker came quite early. Speaker, how did they say we should greet in Dalu? Yeah, welcome to the conversation. We have our speakers right here who are super, super excited to join the conversation. And honestly, I can't wait to hear everything they have to say. I can't wait to hear everything, how they want to contribute and also add their voice, also share their insight and experience when it comes to mobilizing young people, even in the local level. So permit me to introduce our first speaker. So please, I want the chat box. You know all those emojis that you see fire. We are not burning anywhere because it's a virtual meeting, right? So I want to say all those emojis where you see fire, where you see lightning, where you see excitement. I want to see all of that. I want to see all of that as I introduce our speaker. So I'm just going to read a brief bio. Trust me, it is more than this, but we just had to make it brief. So Mr. Mukhtar Halilu Modibo, popularly known as MHM, is a seasoned governance, transparency, and accountability expert with a profound history of collaborating with marginalized grassroots communities across the 36 Nigerian states and 10 African countries. At the helm of Follow the Money that from Connected Development, Mr. Mukhtar orchestrates a network of over 20,000 youth, galvanizing them to demand enhanced public services from elected representatives. He holds an unwavering belief in young people's potential to drive transformative change, eradicating extreme poverty and deprivation. Please join me as I welcome Mr. Mukhtar on the call. Hi, Mukhtar. Hi, Mr. Mukhtar. Please confirm you can hear me.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, sir. So let's just go ahead to also introduce our second speaker or panelist who joined on the call because he had a lot to share with young people. So Paul Oshunkeye is a future-forward political operator and campaign communication specialist who actively collaborates with innovative and efficient political aspirants. Paul is deeply invested in winning hearts and minds, and in turn winning the battle for the soul of Nigeria, her future and sustainable growth trajectory. Please join me to welcome Paul. Please confirm you can hear me.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for joining the conversation. Thank you for joining the conversation. So right now, I will just kick off by just raising the first question right for Mr. Mukhtar. Mr. Mukhtar, can you just tell us, when it comes to youth being the catalyst for democratic change in local level, sometimes it sounds like a fallacy. Is it possible? Is it possible to actually have young people involved from the local level, more like from bottom to the top? Is it possible to have young people in the local level? And what are the challenges like a typical Nigerian youth will face? What are challenges a typical Nigerian youth will face? The Nigerian youth living in the local government, what are the typical challenges that they will face when it comes to engaging and involving democratic processes, and what is the way forward?
All right, first of all, thank you for having me. And like I said, I have been a great fan of what you guys are doing and how you are doing it. So to answer your question, I would say the first thing I would say is possible, is very possible, is happening. It's not happening as fast as we want it to happen, but it's happening. Now, when I say it's happening, I mean, some years back, as a young person, you cannot even come out and say anything regarding governance and what have you. But you could see that there are a lot of organizations led by young people doing a lot of amazing work, tracking government spendings and holding government accountable and doing some different things. And you could see the number of pockets of election observers across the country, and then some pocket of young people being appointed and doing exceptionally well in their services. So it's possible. But as young people, we face a lot of challenges. What are the challenges that we face? Our political space in Nigeria has no political ideology. One of the ideologies we have is the politics of religion and politics of sentiment. And then our political space is very, very expensive. And as young people, you're thinking of innovations, you're thinking of ideologies, you're thinking of things, then you will not be thinking about that money that you sponsor to get things on board. And another thing that is a challenge is the fact that our political space is largely occupied by godfatherism. I'm not saying godfatherism is bad, but godfatherism in the sense that godfatherism of I will give you this so that you can pay me back this. And that is not good for our democracy. Our democracy has been 25 years democracy of uninterrupted democracy. It's a thing for us to be happy about. But as young people, we've been going through a lot of things. That's why I mentioned all this stuff of our political space has no ideology. Our political space is expensive, and the issue of godfatherism. How do we pass this whole thing? As a young person or as young people, I think one of the first things we need to identify is we should always identify that there is no loss in everything we do. You either gain or you learn. And if you learn, if you're trying to put other people to join, then obviously you need to bring people together. So one of the things we need to do as young people is we need to mobilize and decentralize. Mobilize information, mobilize people so that we decentralize the information across so that people will know. And then we will have one commonality of issues. And when we have one commonality of issue, we have our problems. We identify our problem, we localize it, and then we profile a local solution. And by doing that, we will mobilize, decentralize. And then while we do that, we will have to understand, perceive, and get people to trust and believe the system we're trying to put. So I think it will go a long way in helping. And another thing is we have to identify that the world is evolving, and the way it's evolving, it requires a lot of that innovation. It requires a lot of strategy. It requires us igniting resilience, and it requires us doing different things. And when we do that, we mobilize ourselves, we decentralize information among ourselves, and we come out with one voice. Obviously, we can definitely beat that force of godfatherism, that issue of expensive nature of our political space, as well as the issue of ideology. We have to create our own ideology believe in that ideology, trust the ideology, and get more people to trust and believe in the ideology. Then we run a race together and win the race together.
Thank you, Mr. Mukhtar. I think that was really a great way to begin. You know, I was just putting down things when you were speaking. You really emphasized on the point of mobilizing and decentralizing information. I think that is really important. Right now, we know the way the world is really fast-paced. There's a certain level of information everywhere. But when it comes to civic participation, you see that we don't really have much young people really interested in civic participation. If we were to do probably a head count, or just tell everybody, raise your hand now, when was the last time you voted, or when was the last time you had a one-on-one conversation with somebody around civic engagement, around fully participating in democratic process, you see that we have lower percentage of more young people, right? So speaking about mobilizing, so how can young people, right, how can they hold their local elected officials accountable? How can they come up to that place of, okay, we've been able to understand civic processes, or to an extent. So moving from there, how can we hold these elected leaders accountable for promises that they have made, things they have written in their manifesto? So what are the tools, what are the strategies that can help in young people mobilizing other young people and also holding their leaders accountable? You may want to share like a personal story and perspective of managing a network of about 20,000 young people.
All right, so first of all, I think as young people now, we need to identify that there are quite a numbers of organizations, movements that are doing exceptionally well in trying to see how they can develop some tools, you know, and put out some tools for people to be able to hold their government accountable. Before ours, you know, we've got budget that is trying to educate people on budget, right? And then people to understand their budgetary allocations and what have you. So I want you to understand one thing. Whether you're being a young person does not give you anything other than gives you innovation, give you charisma to do what you want to do. But the first thing is you cannot track, or you cannot hold accountable. You cannot hold anything accountable, or anything you don't know accountable. So obviously you have to understand how the governance work, how policies of government work, how these things work. So that's the first thing, trying to understand your budget cycle. Now, when you understand your budget cycle, you have to also understand that the way you relate with me as Mukhtar or you as Ruth is different from the way you would relate to someone in government, right? So if you identify that, and like I said, there are different numbers of organizations that are doing different things across the country. So budget is doing something around budget, and then connected development with Follow the Money. We have a free learning course on Udemy. If you go on Udemy, you will see the classification that we shared, the course that you can take on how to hold government accountable. But first of all, you have to understand how the government work, understanding the budget cycle, understanding the releases of government, and so if you understand that, that will give you that really mantle to be able to hold government accountable. And then on open contracting, you know, PPDC is doing something around that, and I know CJID is also doing something around that, and there are quite a number of people that are doing a lot of things around that. But I want us to understand, one of the first things we can always do is to be able to understand the budget cycle, understand budget, understand releases, and understand the biggest thing is government priority. Political priority is the main thing, because it's another thing to budget in Nigeria, and it's another thing to get that budget released, and it's another thing to get the budget implemented because of political priority. So we need to identify all these things. And I will advise, as young people, please go on this Udemy and go on the website of Budget and other organizations, and go on Udemy. You can take a free course. It's a 30-minute course on how to hold government accountable, and you see how we give all the laid down rules, and also share experience. And if you need more experience from what we have been doing over time for the past 12 years, and in 12 different countries with different dynamics. We're happy to do that. So I would advise, let's read about all these things so that we can do it together.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar. I think I heard you clearly when you talked about the need to arm ourselves with very, very vital information, which is really, really important when it comes to holding your government leaders accountable. And thank you for making suggestions of civil society organizations and also platforms like Udemy that you can take up courses. You know, when you were speaking, you said something about political priorities, understanding what is even the government priorities when it comes to democratic processes in the local government. I think I want to hold on to that because we would love to learn more, but let me just call on Paul to just follow through with the conversation so that we can pick it up from there. And I'll come back to Mr. Mukhtar, right? So that we can also have a conversation on how do young people understand government priorities? How do you even understand political priorities? So, Paul, can you hear me? Please confirm if you can hear me and you can.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Let me just turn on my video for a bit. Yes.
Okay, so our Enugu brother said I can say Dalu. So Dalu. You're welcome, Paul. You're welcome to the conversation. Paul, I know that you have some number of years of experience when it comes to campaign communications. You've been able to work with diverse different parties. So let's not specify on a particular party right here, but you've been able to work with different young people who are campaigning and involved in different electoral processes in different states, even in Benin, currently in Edo, that's Benin City too. So I just want to ask, so the first question for you is, what strategies do you think young people can employ to bridge the gap between their aspirations, right? And also what are the realities? So you can just briefly share as a campaign communication specialist with different youth groups, what are the strategies young people can employ to bridge the gap between just wanting to, I want to be part of this, I want to lead my community, I want to make a difference. And the realities, when it comes to the realities, that are the bills, the policies, the political plan, like facing them in their communities, how can they bridge this gap and build trust build trust with themselves and young people and also their lawmakers?
Okay, so I'll take a two-pronged approach to that, right? So I'll start from the very beginning. So one of my earliest introductions to politics came as a result of me, joining like a random WhatsApp group and then just sharing my thoughts, sharing my ideas, so I would always be able to provide an insight to any conversation, political conversations going around on issues happening in my community and in my state, So I'm from Lagos State, and I think everyone knows this. So Lagos State is like the stranglehold of the APC, right? But one thing you would notice about even the APC is that they do not neglect ideas, right? If you're a person of ideas, and you share these ideas and you try to implement them, their community development initiatives, down the line, somebody's going to notice, right? And you're going to get either a call or you're going to get a reach out, And I think it's also very advantageous as young people who are educated, right? Because like it or not, politics at the local level is mostly championed, not necessarily by illiterates, right? But not by people who prioritize education, for instance. So when you as an educated person come on board and you're able to bring the benefits of your literacy, right, and of your worldview, your broad worldview, is really very appreciated by these guys who are the foot soldiers at the local level. And you are better able to then leverage those abilities to be of importance to them. So let me give a very good example. So last year, right, I started working with a young man who wanted to run in 2027 for the House of Reps position in his state, in Benue State, and so he thought about it, what, I do not have a lot of money, so but how can I approach this in such a way that it both impacts my community and I'm able to get like the maximum attention of those who matter, stakeholders, for instance. So he started with little things, by back to school, so students were going back to school, and then he supplied like some notebooks, I think he supplied some sandals. Then we organized something like a sports tournament, sports for development, we called it, so a sports tournament in public schools in his constituency, and by December, like it or not, there was an event going on, and his house, the sitting House of Rep member had taken notice. Like the young people on ground are already told you that there's somebody making some kind of moves that you can tell that down the line this thing may be politically related. So, and the sitting House of Rep member called him up and said, "Oh, okay, I like things you are doing. Can you share some of these ideas with me, so that maybe I could be able to implement?" And then he had a seat at the table with the person who he hopes to unseat, and then we share some of these ideas with the guy. And the thing is that your political leaders, right, who are in office, who are in power, always seek out ideas, innovative ideas wherever they see them. With time, sustained idea implementation would always attract the attention of your local leaders. So maybe that would be the best example I can share. If you cannot immediately involve yourself in community development initiatives, put out knowledge, write on social media, write on your WhatsApp status when there are issues. Let people know that, your status or your social media page is where they can come to read insightful analysis of these issues, both analyzing the problem and providing a solution. Yeah, so thank you.
Oh, I think that was really insightful. And should I say you're just sharing that from your expertise as a campaign communication specialist, talking about putting out what is really vital online. I think that's very, very important, because there's always this myth that people in the local government, our leaders, they are not interested in what we have to say. They have it all planned out, but always understanding that there's always something you can do. You may not be able to meet them at their offices right now, but you can always share your ideas. And when you want to make a post and use that pin button, I almost wanted to say pin it when you said they're always seeking for ideas, like they're always on the lookout for ideas. So our social media platforms are really, really very, very important tool that you can use to share your ideas. Probably you're seeing something happening in Enugu State and you have been able to get one or two insights from young people. Okay, this is what I think. These are just things that are running through my mind. Why don't we put it together? Why don't we start sharing it online? And that also reminded me of when NG had this decent work campaign, where we had to go take out surveys, gather different insights of young people, or what their decent work aspiration was, what is the kind of work they want. So what's like their decent work aspiration? What do they see as decent work? And this insight, this data became very vital to when it comes to putting together the Nigerian Youth Employment Action Plan, which is something that can be like an action point. So after getting your insight sharing on social media, you can form like a community, right, of young people, which you can still go ahead to present this before your lawmakers. But like what Paul said, they are always seeking out for ideas. So always find platforms to share your idea. So Paul, I also want to ask you, you've already mentioned social media before I could even ask you this question. So can you just briefly tell us what is the role of technology and social media when it comes to amplifying youth voices in local governance? And how can we mitigate the risks associated with misinformation? A lot of information are all over social media. Everybody have access to phone, and you see both the truth, the false, the negative, the positive. So how can we use technology positively, and how can we mitigate the risks of misinformation when it comes to encouraging and mobilizing young people for local governance?
Okay, wow. So I'm speaking mostly to millennials and Gen Z. So we are digital natives. So we absolutely understand the importance of social media. So no, we understand, but we not acknowledge, because, for instance, some of us are not intentional about the things we put out on social media, right? So both as per your brand, right, and as per what you are known for, right? So my comment to that would be, you have to be extremely intentional about your profile, right? You're a young leader. You're not a youth. You are a youth, but you're a young leader, right? If you keep seeing yourself as a youth, right? There is Malala Yousafzai, right? Who was as a very young person, came to global prominence. There are young people who have moved the needle on both national and global issues. So you're a young person, but you see yourself more as a young leader, right? So be very intentional about your brand. Be intentional about the comments that you put out on social media. As young people, we are more prone to criticizing, right? Or something is going on. You are very fast to have criticized. You are very fast to have being the person who is pointing out the problem. Be more prone to providing solution. If you don't have a solution to provide at that moment, it may be helpful to be quiet. I know it's very difficult, right? You want to respond just the way every other young person is responding. But I'm saying be intentional about your brand. You want to be known as somebody who is solution-driven, somebody who's always providing solutions, providing a positive spin on events, right? And even when you criticize, right, you are criticizing with a positive spin. This is what should be done. This is what can be done. And you can then amplify that, right? You can unleash the impact of that by showing that, oh, I have done this and this in my own little way, right? You've shown that you're a change maker and you're a solution-driven person. So those are the things I would say about your use of social media: intentionality, and curate very carefully the brand and the image that you put on social media. Next, I would speak to the disinformation part of it. You would probably have to maybe, I don't know, share, but I know there are trainings around on disinformation and misinformation. I underwent one earlier this year, and it was talking about influence operations. And for the first time, there were very cogent examples from Nigerian social media where I could see that, oh, this was an influence operation. It wasn't a mistake, that somebody was intentionally trying to steer a narrative or a story in a particular direction for a specific outcome, right? So we need to be careful about these things. You also should not retweet anyhow, right? You also need to be either follow other young leaders as yourself or follow reputable organizations. I mean, NG Youth SDGs is doing extremely well in this slide. There's Follow the Money. I mean, there's Code, right? And there's Amnesty International. There are brands and there are organizations who are very careful about the information they put out there. You can follow those ones to get information. You can fact check information as well. So, somebody posts a picture on your community group that's also so is happening. You can do a reverse Google search on that image or on the video to make sure that it's a recent occurrence or it actually happened in your community and did not happen somewhere else. So these are just some of the little things I can maybe share, but I would advise and strongly emphasize that you should undergo trainings, misinformation, disinformation, fact-checking trainings, so just to equip yourself with some knowledge, very necessary knowledge to combat those. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. I think I thought I would just write one page, but with what you said and with what Mr. Mukhtar has just said too, I think I'm going to the second page of my notepad already. And I am so excited you're sharing more insightful things. And I love when you said that young people should understand that they are not just youth, but also young leaders or youth leaders. And when you are criticizing or putting out something on social media, you should criticize with a positive spin, fact check what you are saying, whatever you're putting out, and ensure that it doesn't contain any form of disinformation and misinformation. Thank you so much, Paul, for such an insightful thoughts right there and sharing that. So right about now, I want to hand over to Pascal, who is also a civic champion. He has a lot of questions to ask. So Pascal, please confirm you can hear me. Please confirm you can hear me. Hi, Pascal, can you hear me? Okay. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you're welcome, Pascal. So Pascal will be taking up the conversation.
Yes, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so Pascal will be taking up the conversation to ask Mr. Mukhtar some interesting questions. The last time Mr. Mukhtar spoke, he talked about understanding political priorities, when understanding what your local government is looking at, understanding what is the whole structure and plan when it comes to governance, from the nation down to the state level to the local government level. So Pascal, you may want to pick it up to ask Mr. Mukhtar, how can these local governments and communities create spaces that genuinely empower young people with leadership skills and also ensure that young people are involved in decision-making process? Mr. Mukhtar, please confirm you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, over to you, Pascal.
Hey, Pascal, I think you should be asking questions now, right?
All right. Okay. So praise. I don't know. Can I go ahead now?
Yes, please, you can go ahead.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mutar, and thank you, Mr. Paul, again for the, should I say, lucidity now you've pointed out on some of the key
Okay, can you hear me, Mr. Mukhtar? I think we are having a glitch there.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much, sir. Sorry for the interruption. We're having a bit of a network challenge. Pascal is having a bit of a network challenge, but I believe once he's back, he'll just take it up from there. So just to pick up from where you talked about political priorities, so we'd like to ask, what exactly is, like, how can local governments and community leaders create spaces that genuinely empower young people to take leadership roles and also participate in symbolic positions?
All right, so if you look at some of the things that has been going on in Nigeria, a lot of times with the political participation, it has always been, if it is women, you are being relegated to the financial secretary or treasurer. And if it's a young person, he's been relegated to youth leader or something. And obviously he's just a nodder in all the meetings and what have you. But you know, whatever office you're being given, it's now left for you to now prove yourself, prove why you are a young person, and prove. I like what Paul said. You're not just a youth; you are a youth leader, right? You have to now show that. You have to show the competency you're bringing. You have to show the energy. You have to show the charisma. You have to show the confidence. And all these things. So going back to the conversation of political priority, I'll give you an example. When the previous administration of General Muhammadu Buhari was coming in, there was a conversation all around Nigeria that Buhari is someone that fights corruption, and all contractors were coming back to tech side and what have you. And then maybe when they noticed 6 months down the line of government, there was no ministers and no people are not, like, the government is not taking shape. Everybody understood that, oh, this one is just a jamboree. And that's what we had for 8 years, right? So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that shape, you know, when someone is coming on board, maybe from his previous antecedents or from the previous things he has done, you might know that, oh, this guy is going to focus on this. Or let me give you an example. One of the major issues, I have done a lot of campaigns in Enugu before. One of the major campaigns that young people have been advocating for has always things around water, the metropolitans of Enugu, as well as alcoholism. Sorry to mention that word. I know we've done some campaign with Action Aid, and it's something we try to navigate, and as well as the international scholarship, where the previous administration created the scholarship board, and then a young person was given that position. So what I'm saying when it comes to political priority is to look at what is the priority of this particular government. Is the government, maybe if it is a state, is the state governor looking at building more roads? That is infrastructure, doing flyovers, building a lot of things. You know that this guy is really focused on infrastructure. So his main focus is infrastructure. So one of the things you can do is, see how you can call for the conduct of need assessment, town hall meetings, right, where you sit down with the people in government so that you can prove the point that the budget that is going to be enacted in your state are budgets that has to do with the needs and the want of the people. Now, when it comes to community, when it comes to local government, a lot of times our state governors have told local government to just be a pocket thing in their state. A lot of state has not conducted local government election for quite a number of years, right? But now with the fact that there is a Supreme Court conversation, just so you know, Supreme Court does not enforce, it only sees, right? So there is local government autonomy, and that helps from the issue of insecurity. That helps from the issue of a point. So when there is a campaign, during campaign season, I always tell people that democracy is all about demand and supply, question and answer. Each part of the cycle will come asking for question. At some point, the guy will come to ask you to vote for him or her. And at some point, if he got that your vote and then became the person that is representing you, obviously you will do all you need to do is to do same. What did you say you're going to do to us? And then you have to do the vice versa. So the thing is, you have to just understand that this is what this person said he or she is going to do by looking at the manifesto. And another thing that is affecting young people among communities is the fact that we don't trust the system. We don't trust the system. A lot of times, because of insecurity, a lot of people will tell you that I cannot go out and vote. Maybe I might end up being killed, or something might end up happening. Yes, it's a reality that we see ourselves in, but we have to just give some level of trust, because if our vote don't count, politicians won't buy vote, right? And if we don't matter, obviously, these people will not go there. And if we're not there, they will not represent us. So we have to understand that we have to trust the system for a little bit, so that we can be able to follow the system, understand the system, mobilize people in the system, and let's have people speak about this particular thing. So that's a way of understanding that. So when it comes to community, I think the first thing you need to identify to do the job we do is to do what is called understanding community to respond to community action, right? So when you understand the community, you can be able to respond to what the community really wants. And another thing that is critical is you have to understand the community structure as well as the community influence. Now, what are the structure within the community and who influence who within the community? So these are the problems you're trying to share. You identify the problems, and then you give recommendations for the solutions, and then you identify, you understand the community, and you understand how the community can respond to these actions. Then you understand what are the structure within the community, and understand what are the influence in the community. So there are people that can mobilize, and there are people that can influence people to understand what they are doing, how they are doing, and when they are doing. So all you need to do is you need to do it with the people, by the people, for the people, because you are trying to build a system that has legitimacy, has accountability, has service, and have power. So if you don't have that, a point of credibility, legitimacy, accountability, service, and power, you cannot do anything for the community, because if the community don't trust you, if the community don't believe in you, you cannot do what you're meant to do. So if you understand all this system, you can be able to mobilize people so that you can form a formidable force and fight for one cause. Right? So in fighting for one cause, you have to identify that you have to be focused on that particular thing you're fighting for. So don't easily get away. You know, if you're easily get away on your focus, so you have to have a goal. What I mean is you have to have a goal, and you have to have an objective, and the objective is you follow it strictly. The only thing is you have to develop a contingency plan should, in case your alternative A or plan A is not going the way it's expected, you jump to plan B, and if plan B is not going where you move. But you have to identify these things that I said. I will repeat myself. You have to identify, you have to understand the community to respond to community action, and you have to understand the community structure and the community influence. And in doing that, you have to make the people trust and believe in you. If they trust and believe in you, you have to follow this principle of credibility, legitimacy, accountability, service, and power. So if you're credible, you do everything in a credible way. You show that this is what you're trying to do, this is how you're trying to do it, and your legitimacy, you have to identify that this is what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is for the betterment of the community, and you have to make the community know that. And if you're doing that, allow yourself to be held accountable, hold yourself accountable. And if you're you have done that, obviously you provide service. While you're providing service, you will definitely have power. And if you have power, you don't abuse the power. You mobilize and decentralize the information across so that you can come together to fight for one cause. And if you're fighting for the cause, right, you have to know that this is your goal. This is what success look for you, right? And then you have the objective of achieving your own goal. And by doing that in sight, you have to have the mission, the vision of what you intend to do, and you follow it strictly. The only thing is, like I said, you create contingency plans so that if the way you are carrying it, if it's going this way and you notice that you need to shift, you have to also, shift it from that, because you have already understand the structure in the community and you have already understood the influence in the community. So you might necessarily, with doing that, you might have to do what is called stakeholders analysis, stakeholders mobilization before stakeholders analysis, to understand who will do what and what will do what, right? So if you understand all these things, you will just mobilize these people within the community. Don't do it in isolation, and don't always take credit. Be a team builder, be a team mobilizer, and be a team action player. Among your team, identify this one is good with hashtags, maybe this one is good with write-ups, this one is good with writing letters, this one is good with mobilization. Everybody, identify everybody's stronghold. So when you come as a group, try as much as possible to identify two things. One, identify your weak point. The other one, identify your strength. When you identify that, then within your team, try to identify three people: the person that supports you, and the person that opposes you, and the person that sits on the bench. Bench sitters, no, they don't support you, no oppose you. So any day you come, if you come, they are supporting you. If you are not there, they are against you. So you have to identify these things. And when you identify it and you're trying to pursue a goal for your community, I promise you that will go a long way. But just so you identify, you note that some of the change that we want to see, we might not see it during our time. It will be after some years that this change will happen. But you have to identify that, and you have to strictly push. And sometimes I used to advise people to say, before you start, identify what success look like for you. And when you identify, try to identify what are the anticipated success, right? And then unanticipated success. And what are the anticipated challenges? And then identify what are the unanticipated challenges, something you can just jot down, so that if anything comes up, you have also identified that these are my anticipated challenges, these are my unanticipated challenges, and then you can move. But don't say you're going to do everything alone, or you want to take the credit alone. It's a teamwork. Be a team builder, be a team mobilizer, and effectively do the job. And I promise you, it will be a great thing. Oh, have I been speaking to myself?
No.
Can you guys hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Mukhtar. Like, the chat box is on fire, right? You've been saying a lot of things. Pascal, please confirm you can hear me. There's a bit of a network issue with Pascal, but he's here on the call. Like, we are literally writing down and putting down a lot of notes. Let me just read some things in the chat box so that you know that, should I say, I'm not the only one with a full notepad, right? We have a lot of people saying and making a profound statement. Understand community to do community action. That was really, really strategic. Understand who influences the existing system in the community. Identify and fight for one cause. Understand a community and understand a community action. Again, hold yourself accountable and allow yourself to be held accountable. Don't do it alone. Be a team builder and a team mobilizer. It's always a process. Identify the anticipated challenges and unanticipated challenges. These are just few. If I keep reading now, I don't think we'll leave this conversation, but honestly, it has been a very, very insightful conversation with you, Mr. Mukhtar. I thought you were just going to give us like expatiate on the political priorities, but you went went from there and kept building and building and building, and it has been really, really insightful. Please, I want to see the chat box on fire. Like, I want to see the chat box on fire. So right now we just call on Paul to just respond to one question. So for now, right? Oh yeah, another person said, don't take all the credits. That's right, Chukrebuka. If you have questions, if you have comments, and you want to just contribute or even say something, please just raise your hand. And once Paul responds to this question, we'll move over to you. So Paul, just briefly, can you just explain, just let us know what are the challenges and opportunities for young people advocating for policies that address the unique needs of marginalized communities and marginalized groups? So we know that even on the call, we are privileged to have people living with disabilities on the call. So how can young people, even those living with disabilities, right, and even those that are not living with disabilities, how can they address challenges when it comes to speaking about policies, speaking about programs, speaking about initiatives, or even ensuring that people in the marginalized group are able, that more attention is drawn towards them, and they are able to bring youth leaders focus, young leaders and also community leaders, they are focused to strengthening and engaging more with the marginalized or vulnerable groups in communities?
Thank you very much for that question. So I think the first thing I would say is that the key thing about politics, and so which extends to policy and hopefully governance as well, is that it's about interest, right? So group interest, self-interest even. So both on the part of the governed and on the part of elected leaders, right? And it's also about consensus building. So as marginalized communities, I think one of the first things, is that you should understand that your interest as a group, as a marginalized group, should be to look out for leaders that are empathetic, right? It is crucial, right, to ensure that either in election circles and even off season, that you are looking out for leaders who are empathetic and are able to champion your cause, right? And then you align with those leaders, right? And you begin to build a consensus around your needs and around the needs of your marginalized community. And through that, down the line, right, you are building a pipeline for the possibility of the emergence of a leader that is intimately aware of your needs and is able to then, implement policies, right, and even includes you in the policy making process to ensure that your needs are carried along. So another thing I would say is also that it's key for young people to have an organizational forming ability. So it's important, organization and the ability to organize yourselves, right, which I hope that you are learning in this civic leadership program, is very key to anything young people will achieve, right? It will help you in engaging with leaders. It will help you in even being able to articulate your needs properly, right? Because you are doing it as a group, right? And again, like Mukhtar said, you've leveraged on the strengths, the strengths of, each person, this person can do this, can do that, this person is the person who can speak on our behalf, this is the person who is the social media guru, who can help lead social media campaigns, and this is maybe the person that can get us in the door, who knows somebody or knows the other person who can get us in the door to meet with leaders and then present our case. So organization and the ability to organize yourself is very important. So I think another thing I would just make while closing is to say that so far, right, what young people understand, right, around organizing themselves is protesting. That is one channel. It is not the only channel. Another reason for organizing yourself is also to be able to even just do volunteer community work, organize yourself and just go implement a project, right? And be a solution provider, which I've kind of mentioned before. That one is even more potent, right? Because by the time it comes to the attention of any decision maker, right, it is coming to their attention as the fact that you are a solution provider, you are a change maker, you are somebody that they can collaborate with to implement change making, right, or transformative change in that community or in your local area. So I'm saying learn organization, right? And when you organize it's not only protest that is the channel for pushing forth or showing forth your organizational ability.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. I was just trying to put down all he has been saying. So I think this is really, really key. He talked about look out for leaders that are empathetic and also learn organization or develop organizational skills. So it's not just about mobilizing other young people for protest. We know we've talked about using social media, but beyond that, right, you even in the communities, and like what he said, and that's one very, very important reason why we have the Civic Leadership Program. We're already mobilizing young people in Enugu. Okay, Paul, you're back. You want to wrap up that?
Oh yeah, let me quickly. So yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I had spoken to what I needed to speak to. So focus on organization, and protests are not the only way to organize. Focus on also developing your community as a collaborative measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's really insightful having you here. Thank you. So I was just expatiating on what you said, which is very, very important. So develop organizational skills that you can use to mobilize other young people. I think he's just tying it into what Mr. Mukhtar said, just bringing everything together. Mr. Mukhtar talked about understanding your team members, their strengths and their weaknesses, and how they can play a huge role. So even though you're mobilizing more young people, just as the way the Civic Champions are mobilizing other young people in Enugu State, you need to understand each person that is coming on board. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How can they fully participate? And how can they be able to be part of the whole system to influence positive change? So right now, I want to appreciate our speakers for joining the conversation. But before I let them go, if you have comments, contributions, I know we've been dropping a lot of things in the chat box, right? But I want to hear one or two persons say one thing. Just introduce yourself, what you do, and just maybe some excerpts from the entire session, what stood out for you. So this is your opportunity. I no longer want to restrict it to the chat box. This is your opportunity to unmute your mic and say something. So just use the raise hand button and just raise up your hand if you want to say one or two things. I know I have a lot of people on the call. I have Gabriel, I have Favor. Favor, you've been typing and typing. It's okay. Stop typing in the chat box. Raise your hand. Let me unmute your mic so that you say something. Favor, don't worry. We are going to drop all the social media handles of Mr. Mukhtar, from Twitter to Instagram to LinkedIn. We're going to drop that all in the volunteer group chat. Also the one for Mr. Paul Oshunkeye, we're going to drop that too. So I want to see one or two persons just raise your hand. Gabriel, if you're on the call and you can hear me, I want to say something, let me know. Nwachukwu Emmanuel, Onyebuchi, Victoria, Blessing, Ayoha, just let me know, just in case I miss your name and you want to say one or two things, or even you want to ask questions. I know that the session was really, really rich. Okay, Gideon, you want to say something?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, my name is Gideon Eze, visually impaired. I'm the PRO of the leading disability organization in Enugu State, the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities. At first, I want to thank our resource personnel for their insightful teachings so far. And I want to also let them know that all they have taught so far has been noted, and we are ready for implementation. Most interesting was when they said we should look out for leaders that are empathetic, those who are willing and ready to chart our course. And indeed, it's part of the steps we are taking. Although in Enugu here, we have a lot of challenges focusing on leadership and with regards to persons with disabilities. But on our own part, we are doing our best as community leaders to see how much we can execute some community development projects. For instance, in Enugu State currently, the Organization of Persons with Disabilities, Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, are currently undertaking data collection of all persons with disabilities, which is supposed to be a government-driven project. But we do that as part of our outreach hold to use it as a means of showing them that, okay, if we can do this little, you need to come in and do this better. Bring in enumerators, and then let's partner together to ensure that we have accurate data of these persons with disabilities to be able to ensure that government programs, initiatives, and projects are directly expanded and reached out to these persons. And we have a lot of projects that we do as community leaders within the disability community that even don't just inspire persons with disabilities alone, but even those without disabilities, because we do have a radio outreach program where we even teach those without disabilities on how best to live with persons with disabilities, and even teach those with disabilities on how best to live within the society so that they can all live in harmony. So this is just the little things that we are doing here in Enugu. We have a lot of things, a lot of projects, a lot of programs going on as leaders of disability community, but then it will be too numerous if we begin to mention them here. So I want to thank the organizers of this program for letting us in, at least to widen the scope of our horizon and learn more in all that we do. Thank you very much, and God bless you. My name is Gideon Eze. Thank you.
Thank you, Gideon Eze. Dalu. Thank you for sharing your key takeaways. And I can see that it will really be helpful, right, in strengthening the disability community. And we love the initiative that's like mobilizing and resourcing young people together to create positive change. Thank you so much for your contribution. And we know that from here, you can be able to even develop maybe a policy brief or something you can even take to your community leaders, take to your state leaders, and from there we know that there are a lot of actions. And I also want to say, look out for other opportunities even beyond your state. There are a lot of opportunities. People are interested in helping people living with disability come together to form a force that will strengthen and equip more other young people. And great idea. The radio presentation is an amazing one. Thank you for sharing that. Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
You have the floor for 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I actually just want to thank everybody for this opportunity. And I really want to say a very, very huge thank you to Mr. Mukhtar, because as in, like you said, I have a lot of excerpts, because what he said is not just talking about civic leadership. He dropped some points that, that drag across all the spectrum of leadership, not just civic leadership, okay? It's leadership in so many aspects. And there are so many. 30 seconds is not enough, but I'll try to hold it down. He said something about being intentional about people building. Okay, understand that you're a team player, a team builder, a team mobilizer. And as long as you're working with a team, just know that it's a team effort, it's a collaborative effort. And as long as it's a collaborative effort, you are not to take the credit alone. So that on its own, because one thing that we see is the whole thing of after you finish working as a team in a team project, when you're done working, the person that is the quote unquote leader will take all the credit, and that's not fair. So after he said this now, I am entirely assured that if maybe I am put in a leadership position, I will try my best to apply these principles that he has already listed that are very, 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 very impactful. And maybe from there, we can actually start fixing the issue of leadership, because if we can't fix the issue of leadership on the grand scale, we can start on the most minute scales. We can start at the grassroots levels until we keep building and fixing things and working things until we are at the national level. So once again, my name is Emmanuel Jekin. I am a photographer. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I really appreciate this environment, and I really appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for sharing. You said you have a lot of excerpts. I think you're going to give me some so that I can add to my 3 pages already. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks so much for your insights. If we have one more person that wants to speak, please just do well to raise your hand. I want to know if Gabriel, you're on the call. Gabriel wants to say 1 or 2 things on behalf of the Civic Champions. Gabriel, are you on the call? Are you able to speak? Please let me know if you're able to speak, and I will unmute you. Okay. You can just use the raise hand button.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, please go ahead, Gabriel.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Just in in 30 seconds, yes.
All right, good evening, everyone. Okay, my name is Gabriel. I'm one of the young civic champions from the Civic Leadership Programme that's currently going on in Enugu East Senatorial District. So far, so good. It has very, very been impactful. I've really learned a lot, gained a lot of values, participating in this program. Apart from the theoretical aspects where I got to learn about the change maker journey, participatory governance, engaging our stakeholders and all that, I've equally learned the practical aspects whereby I get to practicalize this by going out, visiting stakeholders within the community, the local government where I'm representing. Like today now, I was able to visit the chairman of the Joint Association of Persons with Disability. And it's something that I've not done before. I've not even met the man before, but I used to hear about him. You get, and I'm even happy that he's on this call and he was able to bring some other persons. I was able to equally visit Enugu State, Enugu South Secretariat the other time. It's something that is very, very key, like engaging our leaders, like knowing the stakeholders. It's part of those things that the speakers have talked about here. Getting to know them is very, very key in as a youth participating in democracy. So these some of the things I've actually benefited so far participating in a civic leadership program.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. I think it's a really, really good feedback from you. And it's so amazing that you tried to bring one person and the person came on board with a lot of persons and he has a lot of things he has shared. And we look forward to a lot of impact and contributions even from your team and the people you are mobilizing in Enugu State. So I just got an information that we have some persons from the South Saharan Social Development Organization. Please, if you're on the call, we don't have much time. Please, can you just use the raise hand button? Let's just meet you right here on the call if you have one or two things to say. Emmanuel, do you want to say something, or that's an old hand they are raising up? So we're about wrapping up the session. Okay, I think we'll just go ahead because we are way behind time. So I want to appreciate everyone that joined the call. Our speakers from Mr. Mokhtar Halilu Modibo to Mr. Paul Ushunkeye. Thank you for so much insights you've shared. I promise everyone on the call that you get their social media handles. And it doesn't end here. We've learned a lot about using our social media platforms to share what we've learned, to also engage and to mobilize more young people. So your excerpt from Emmanuel that has like a 12 pages excerpt to Charity, who have been writing since she joined the call, to Victoria, to Pascal, to Favor, who have been filling the chat box with excerpt, sharing everything and putting fire. Please, I want to encourage every one of us to ensure that we share our key insights on social media, tag our speakers because they've been amazing, and we'll just pick up from there. So it's beyond social media, also going back to the local government, ensuring that we are taking actions on the key things you've learned. Thank you all so much for joining the call. Thank you all so much for joining the call, and do have a lovely evening.